Hi all. These are generally conversations between adults after the children have left the table. The language can be spicy and the subjects can get saucy. So if you're ready, this is the Southern Fork. Unscripted kitchen chats and also studio chats with some of the most interesting voices in the culinary South. I'm Stephanie Burt, a food and beverage writer based in Charleston, South Carolina, who travels with her fork to write for a variety of publications, from magazines you might have on your coffee table to the website you love to visit for your favorite recipes. And I'm inviting you to come behind the scenes with me to get to know the people who make this Southern culinary landscape so special. I'm always hungry for the next bite, thirsty for that next sip, and ready for the next conversation. Let's dig in. The Southern Fork is sponsored by me again this week. If you listen consistently and like the show, will you consider writing a review on your favorite podcast app? The way to do that is to go to the show's page on that app, and there will usually be a place to click to write a review. I appreciate each and every one of you who've done this through the years, because each time it helps the algorithm and thus brings up the show more for folks who are browsing for new things to listen to. Now, how about another helping of shrimp and grits? Charlotte Jenkins of Awendaw, South Carolina, has been cooking since she was 9 years old, when her mother left her in charge of the kitchen to take care of a sick family member. She was the chef and owner at Gullah Cuisine on Highway 17 in Mount Pleasant, which is just over the bridge from Charleston, for 17 years until that restaurant closed in 2014. But she's never stopped cooking, catering for a select group of clients, and now in her 70s, considering a new venture. When we sat down to record, she was so enthusiastic about the session, she started right in, and that's just Charlotte. She has more energy than many of us, and her energy, pride in her heritage, and of course, some serious cooking chops have helped bring Gullah culture more recognition. Her book, Gullah Cuisine, By Land and by Sea, is in its 3rd edition.
I live in Awendaw, South Carolina, where I was born and raised. After graduating from high school, I left and moved to New York City. Then, I got married and I worked there, got married, had one daughter, and decided to move back to Awendaw, Mount Pleasant, whatever. And I worked with a family business for a while. And being that I had such love for cooking, which I was doing since the age of 9.
Right.
I decided that, I really want to pursue that. And
what was the family business? By the way, welcome to the Southern Fork. What was the family business?
Askew Paint and Body Shop. Well, yeah, I was doing body work. Well, I did estimates and stuff like that. But then, I decided to really do food for the body.
I love it. So you started cooking at 9. What was the dish that you mastered first at age 9?
It was liver and onion with gravy, and serve it over white rice.
You still make that today?
Very seldom. But if someone asked for it, I would do it.
So you decided that you wanted to pursue cooking full time. So what was that next step?
Well, what I did, I saw the article where the school, Johnson and Will, School of Culinary Art, and I applied and I went there. I went to school I did twice a week and then weekends, Saturday and Sunday all day. And I did that for, until I graduated, which I graduated in 1988.
So you did that, and you're working still, and you
I
got
was
kids.
working at the body shop.
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
And the kids, what I said to, well, this is my former husband. He passed away almost 8 years ago. And I said to him that I was going to go pursue, I said, I know how to cook and I know how to make food taste good. So, but I want to learn the business part of it because I want a restaurant. So, and I said, now you have to, the girls were, I had 2 girls. They were a teenager and they were like, could do for themselves. But I told him that you will have to take total responsibility of the girls. And I sit the girls down and talk, and they said, okay, we got it. You go ahead and do what you got to do. And it worked out very good. Had no problems. Everything worked fine. They were, they did what they had to do, and everybody did what they had to do.
And it was a good example to see a mom doing that, right?
Oh, yeah,
to step out and be a woman and say, look, I'm pursuing my dream. And then we fast forward to Gullah Cuisine.
While attending Johnson & Will, I realized, that restaurant was risky business. I realized then.
Right.
And so I said, well, maybe I'll detour to catering. When I graduated, I started doing catering. So I had a small catering company. And one day I got a call from this Fortune 500 company, and they asked me to bid on, this was, I would say, a resort for the employees. They comes like 3 days at a time, 3 to 4 days at a time. And then they go, and every different crew comes every day. And they needed someone to prepare Southern meal. They wanted Southern food. And they say that, they thought that I would be able to do that. And so I did the bid. They accepted my bid. I had 5 employees, and it was like running a restaurant because they did hunting, and they had a lot of sporting things. So we would have to 5:30 make a little light breakfast for the hunters, and then we would do breakfast, and then lunch, and then we did a happy hour, and then dinner.
That is a lot.
It was a lot.
And how many days a week did you do that?
Well, actually, it was like 7 days a week because, we might get a day or so in between. Well, if a group doesn't come right away, get a little spare time in between.
Right.
But basically, it was like 7 days.
Oh my goodness.
But but I didn't felt it. I guess I was much younger then, and I love it. And I had a very good staff, so we did very good. And I held that for about 3 years. Anyway, I was outbid on that year, the fourth year. I was outbid, so someone else got the contract. And, which I had already left my previous job for almost 4 years. And I said, I'll go back there. And then, I thought about it, and my husband said, you say you don't want a restaurant, but what do you think you were doing? What you were doing at Brosnell Forest? I said, yeah. He said, well, we used that building. We had that building, but we only have a small part. And so he said, well, let's open that up. So we did that small part of it and start lunch, and then we negotiate to open up the other part. So we did all the repairs. It was, it was really shack, but we put a lot of hard work and money into it. That's where Gullah Cuisine was born. So we started it. That was like in 90. Actually, when the really start, it was about around 95, 96.
Okay.
During that time when we were like.
So working. It's really starting to pop in Mount Pleasant at that time.
Well, you remember now, there weren't that many restaurants there.
There wasn't.
There was no, I was like, just was very few there.
So I'd love to, before we talk about how much has changed, I want to ask, from my perspective as a food and travel writer, I feel like there is really a celebration of Gullah culture that was maybe just beginning at that time. You know, I've had BJ Dennis on the show, and he's such a ambassador for the food and the culture. What is something that you think is a quintessential dish of that era at Gullah Cuisine?
I mean, during the restaurant period? Well, actually, basically, I think, well, there was several things.
I know I have my favorite, but you know what went out the door more.
Like the okra soup, shrimp and grits. That was very, those were the main food, red rice, collards.
I'm all about your fish.
Oh, yeah. Now, the thing about, this area here, this is on the coastal, right? So we can walk down to the river there. And, if you know how to fish, you can fish. But where I grew up at, it's not too far from here, which is Gadsdenville Road. And the local fishermen, they would bring the fish to my mother by the tub full. Old seafood, shrimp, crabs. So I grew up on that. So seafood was my main thing. And even now, I eat most of that.
We would try to come on Fridays when you would have the fried fish.
Yes.
And
and that's on the buffet.
Yes, it was the buffet. And yes, so was it what you thought it was going to be when you were owning that restaurant? Was it as hard work and as risky and as long hours as you thought?
It was hard work. It was long hours and it was risky, but I just kept on going. I just love it. I didn't care I didn't feel tired until I got home. I lived here and I would come in, go upstairs, and that's it. My whole world was that restaurant. I didn't pay attention to nothing around here. I didn't even know that you can sit out there in the trees and listen to the birds and watch the hummingbirds and all. None of that I had time for. But I'm enjoying it now.
Well, this is a very idyllic place. I'm not going to say specifically where it is because I'd like to keep your privacy private.
Thank you.
It is pretty idyllic out here and quiet.
Very quiet.
And just peaceful, very peaceful. What was your favorite thing about the restaurant? Was it the cooking? Was it the managing? Was it talking to people? Chefs have different things that they love. Some chefs love to stay in the kitchen. Some love to be out talking to the tables. What was your favorite?
Well, I would the cooking I like and the people, and I guess it was like it came natural because mostly like people will ask, I'd like to meet the chef, and the waitress will come in and says, well, does someone want to out there? And even though I'm extremely busy, I would make time because it's almost like it does me good to go out there and speak to you and see what your concerns were, whether it was good or bad.
Right.
I want to address it.
And then the explosion of people started happening here, and construction on 17 started happening. Can you talk a little bit about that decision to close?
Well, the changes, it was the construction, that too kind of hurt a little bit because there was one time when people had to go all the way up and come back down to the restaurant, and they didn't like that. And I lost some customers during that period. But the worst part about it was like in 2008, during that the
downturn.
Yeah, downturn. I had seemed like I was never been able to get back to normal to where it was. And even though I had good clientele customers, I did a lot of catering and everything, and that's what basically kept me alive. But the change, and also with all the different restaurants, so people have so many choices, that cut into your revenue.
They don't have your fish, though. They don't have your Friday fish.
But, you had your main crew, but then you still, you need those tables need to turn.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So,
But you've always been such a teacher. Do you have people that you've really taught to cook or worked with as cooks and chefs that are now doing their own thing? I I mean, because I know your recipe writing speaks for itself, but
Well, a couple of people that really took it on. I know one, and he was the main sous chef, and he has a job now, and he's doing really good. But no one that went out on their own, per
any
se.
family members, or they're all like, that's where mom is. She's just in the restaurant.
My daughter, which she did, she did culinary for a little while. She got a degree in catering, but she's good. She's really good. She picked up a lot. She went to Trident, and she picked up a lot. Trident. Her style is excellent, very good. But she, like during the time with the restaurant, ran all the technical part of the business, took care of all of that. But she didn't care for that laboring in the kitchen. She'd like for if you were want to dine with her in her home, or if she want to come over here and dine, she'd like that. But she didn't want that responsibility.
I understand that. I've been there. I like to cook, but I don't want to own a restaurant, right?
She didn't want that, but she was good. I mean, she is people person, and she's really, anything she touched, she does good. So then she has a little artistic ability too, that, she brings the art into it, So to me, I feel it. She could have hung in there with Gullah Cuisine and make it, but it's hard work. I mean, and this generation of children, they're not going to do that. It's just too much. They have to really want it, love it to do it, And when my husband passed, it just got to be, too much, because he always had my back,
Right.
If I had to go to a book signing or something, he got the restaurant covered. But after that, I didn't have nobody to depend on, because my daughter, she was not there like that.
Well, you've had some time to sit and watch the hummingbirds at the hummingbird feeder. You've had some time to really be out here and be idyllic and also rest on your laurels a little bit, Charlotte. I mean, you've done a lot, and cookbook. I mean, it's amazing to write a book and to see it
took a while.
and to test those recipes and know they're right.
That was a job too.
Right, because you are used to making for lots of people, and you had to make. Can you talk a minute about converting those down for like 4 servings instead of 14?
Yeah, well, that was very interesting, and I enjoyed, because it's just all you gotta do is like do the math.
That's easy for you,
but that's what it entails,
right?
In order to reduce a recipe, you has to do the math. It was good. I mean, I didn't have a problem with it, I guess, because I was doing it. Maybe.
It's a great book. I'm excited for my listeners to know that it is out there in the world. And before I really talk about what I think might be happening, your next step, I'm sitting here. We're socially distanced, about 8 feet apart with these mics. And we've talked about our testing and all kind of things in order to do this. But I'm surrounded by Jonathan Green prints and just all kinds of things, your plaques, sweetgrass baskets. I mean, your home is an expression of Gullah culture. How has your work been an expression of that beyond just those traditional recipes? Do you feel that you're connected to that part of the celebration of it right now?
Well, yes. First of all, when I opened Gullah Cuisine, you weren't reading anything about Gullah, or nothing,
right?
And I decided to say Gullah Cuisine because I say this is the food that the Gullah people eat, and this is what I want to. And I think people need to learn more about the Gullah culture. So when I started that restaurant, it started a movement lightly, but I don't know if anybody realized it. But then, with all of the write-ups, and I think that's wake people up and says, there's that culture out there that's being totally ignored. Everybody have their day. You know, every culture have something in there. But back then, you could not hear about a Gullah culture or nothing like that, or a Gullah festival or a taste of Gullah, nothing.
Right.
You know,
right.
so
and that's how I met you was I was working at the Post and Courier for a publication long gone called Low Country Living, and I interviewed you for a story, and I was just ignorant. I didn't know that the differences, and was just at the beginning of my food journey and didn't understand all the influences from West Africa. And, you know, really what turned the corner for me was red rice, and seeing that it was a very particular thing. I'd only ever had, frankly, hot table, bad red rice instead of something fresh and beautiful and flavorful.
But that menu derived from Africa, which is jollof rice.
Right.
Jollof rice, yeah.
And so that to me was like that first key. Like, and then okra soup and all of this makes so much of a difference. There is a movement, and you were part of that.
Well, I know it's blown up now. Everywhere you look, there's Gullah, Gullah, Gullah.
So I'm here, and I see a truck behind this house, and it has the Gullah Cuisine logo and wording on it. And when I pulled up, I knew I was in the right place. I'm really excited about what that might be out there. Can you tell me, is something happening? Are you considering something?
We are working on it. You know, I have my brother. He is not. You know, we do dinners, and he's a good cook. You know, and matter of fact, he makes dinner every Sunday for us, and sometimes, you know, we chip in and make a dish or something like that. But he prefer doing it all. And I tell him, you know, I know why you want to do it all, because you want the compliments. And I understand it. I says, listen, I've been there. And I know that's what kept me going. People telling me, oh, this is so good. And that kept me going through 20 years of Gullah cuisine.
Right.
But he never forget. He never stopped talking about it. Every time he talks about it, he said, oh, we're going to have, you know, we're going to do a restaurant. No, he was working with the group trying to do a Gullah at the African American Museum, but they didn't have enough space. So, you know, he got off of that, and he says, and I keep telling him, I said, why you want to open a restaurant? It's risky business. He said, oh, use your recipe and all that. So I said, no, so recently we talked about it, and we were saying, well, maybe we'll get a food truck, you know. We're thinking about, we might just do that. And he and I will do, you know, we'll work head to head and cook. I know he loved that. But we're in the talking stage of it, and we probably make it happen. And if it does, it'll be on Facebook and be all over.
But in the meantime, you do moonlight sometimes as a private chef.
Oh,
if
definitely.
you are around. And I'm telling you, if you want red rice and fish, this is where to come.
That's
and,
right. Yes.
It's amazing. We used to come over the bridge from Post and Courier on Fridays for lunch, often for the buffet, and try not to nap on the way home.
All right.
But yeah, no one's ever accused me of having a light appetite, Charlotte. So.
Yeah, I have a customer that you know, I've been closed almost 4 or 5 years now. And every Super Bowl year, he wants that fried chicken. So I do that fried chicken. And last year, February, I went someplace. I don't remember. But anyway, I said, oh, I got to do. So that had to go away for the weekend. So I prepped everything, and I told my sister, I said, you could do it now. You know exactly. You just follow all that direction and do it. So she did the
That's what I mean about being a teacher. See?
Right, yeah. So she did it, and, you know, I guess he was happy. I'm sure he was happy.
Good.
You know.
Good.
But yeah, I often get called, and I do do that. You know.
So you're really not a watch the hummingbird type, I don't think.
Well, you know what? It's interesting. I have a feeder in my window when I watch the dishes. I just look up there and there they are.
This next chapter, I've got to ask these 4 questions that I ask of all the guests. So the first one is, what makes you hungry? What's making you hungry right now?
Make me hungry is to have a small establishment and have some tasty food. That will make me happy. That's what I don't want to go large, just small, and have the best tasty food. Healthy too.
Love it.
From farm to table.
Or river to table.
Yeah. Surfing, well, not that, but yeah, from river to table, that's good. Seafood, shrimp.
What is one aspect of this job, cook, chef, teacher, restaurant owner, that really meshes with an aspect of your personality? It fits like a puzzle piece.
Well, I think the one thing is, love people, patient, just enjoy cooking, cooking and the love for people. And patience.
We all need some more patience, I feel like these days. That's my lifelong journey work. What keeps you up at night?
Well, when the restaurant closed, I used to keep up. That kept me up at night. That's all I shoulda, coulda.
Yes.
What I could have done better, and how I'm going to survive without it, how I'm going to miss it. But now I sleep good. I don't have
Good.
I don't have a problem with that.
You made some peace with it.
I did.
And ready for that next chapter. All right. So I only talk about this on this show, but I have a magic picnic basket. Okay. And that gives me the opportunity to time travel. So I can go back in time to get any ingredient that you want. I can conscript anybody to cook anything that specifically that you want. I can source and I can cook a little bit. But as I say almost every week, I don't want to say too much because I'm intimidated always with the person across the way from me. I don't know if I want to try to cook for you, but I'd love to bring you a meal in that picnic basket. It doesn't have to go together traditionally, just a dream meal for you. What am I going to bring you?
I'd love that. I guess I don't know how you're going to do it, but I'm saying you know what I like. You know what I like. So, that grown-up Gullah, the things that, I like. So
let me see if I can guess. So you want a tomato and onion sliced salad with some vinegar fresh from the garden, and then maybe some shrimp out of the creek, and and some grits that are really creamy, white rice that's not sticky, right? That the grains separate a little bit, fresh banana pudding. What else am I missing?
Cucumber on the salad.
Cucumber on the salad. That's right. Yeah. I should know. I made that this week. My grandmother was Appalachian. It's kind of the same thing.
Right.
The cucumber and onion with the vinegar.
Red onions. I like the red onion.
Red onion. What else? Anything in there?
Is on the salad?
No, just in general. Biscuits, cornbread. Which camp are you?
Either one, but if it's a good biscuit, I'll take a biscuit. Either one.
I can make biscuits.
You can? Okay, good.
Yes. I used to be a biscuit baker for Callie's.
Oh, well, yeah, you could make the biscuit. You know how to make biscuits. Great.
I know how to make biscuits. So I'm confident that I can make you a biscuit.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, that sounds good. I love that. It sounds like a great meal. If people want to learn more about Charlotte Jenkins and her cookbook, you can go to thesouthernfork.com. I'm going to have a link there, as I do, for books from the show. So you can click that link and purchase right from there. Also, see the face behind the voice. She's very elegant meeting me today in all black. I love it. But I am rounding the corner on 200 episodes, and I'm so thrilled to be able to bring you new and exciting things, but also some people that have really spurred me on my journey. And I promise you, Charlotte and I don't know each other really well, but she was one of those people that inspired me to keep writing about food. So thank you so much for having time for me today to chat.
You are so welcome. I enjoy it anytime. Welcome for having me.
Hello and welcome to Talking with My Mouth Full. I don't know about you, but there's a lot of news out there, and sometimes it can get overwhelming. So all you really want to do is bake chocolate chip cookies and ignore it. Well, we all know that I've done that too, but I've just chosen to do something so that I feel like I have a part in the process, however small. We can't change big problems without small actions. And so I've gone back to something that I really did a lot in college, and that is participating in voter registration events. So I did a voter registration event a couple weeks ago, and then I did one this week, and I've put a QR code in my photos on my phone. And just if I'm happen to be in conversation, like at the farmer's market yesterday, asked somebody standing next to me and showed her the QR code, and she registered to vote right there. So that's what I'm doing right now. And so in that, this is what I'm doing right now. I'm going to mention that we all forget that sometimes when we change addresses, we change voter precincts, and we lose our voter registration. There is also scrubbing of the voter registration rolls that have happened in the past few years. So you should really check and make sure that your registration is up to date. Since I was going retro, like back in the 90s, basically, with my kind of civic engagement, this voter registration, I am going to tell you about a 90s way that I did that, and that was the MTV Rock the Vote. So it's still around in 2020, and you can go to register.rockthevote. Any state you can register to vote. I double-checked my registration yesterday. I voted in a lot of elections since moving here, but I noticed that in my precinct, there were less than 800 people registered to vote. There's just no way there's only 800 eligible voters in my precinct. So you're in my precinct too, if just virtually. So once again, that is register.rockthevote.com. It'll take about 2 minutes, and you can do it directly from your phone, and just double check, make sure. So vote, and remember, there are a lot more people running this November for offices besides that of President of the United States. And those offices matter too. I believe that 2020 has shown us that in spades. So thanks a lot for hearing my Schoolhouse Rock 1990s PSA. See you at the polls. Till next time.
You've been listening to The Southern Fork. I can't wait to bring you more culinary conversations, but in the meantime, I have one question. Are you gonna eat all that?